how do I get my lawyer to speed up my divorce?
It's such a common question, and I'm going to break it into what I think are potential reasons why it's not going as fast as the client wants it to. So, first and foremost, I think that a good attorney-client relationship, and I'm putting some responsibility on both parties, is to get an understanding of what's involved in the process and what are likely time frames. So we lay out for our client the roadmap of a contested divorce, like what are the stages? How long does each stage usually last? What's expected of the client at each stage? What can they expect of the law firm at each stage? So we do lay that all out. So first there's our intake and getting to know you and gather your information. And then there's getting discovery and financial information from the other party. And then there might be motion practice. And then there might be mediation or settlement efforts. So we have the phases of the case, and we kind of talk about what goes on and how long we think things are going to take at each stage. And we let the client know when their case is now moved from one stage to the next. Okay, now we're in this stage. But a lot of things go into how things or if things move in those stages in any predictable fashion. And one of those things is the client. If we need information from the client, we need them to gather 3 years of bank records and credit card statements and retirement statements and run a Kelley Blue Book on their vehicle and help us complete their net worth statement, but they're not participating in a timely way, that can stall it. So in some instances, the clients are part of the reason things aren't moving as fast as they would like or we would like. Some things are dependent on the other party and their attorney, and we have very little control over those folks, right? So we can ask for commitments. Can you get those things with us? Or there might be court imposed commitments that sometimes are honored and sometimes aren't for the timing of exchange of financial information, for instance. And then there's these courts, and no attorney has any control over that. And even though well-meaning judges might put a schedule in place, lots of things arise for those courts that can derail their schedules. So a more high priority trial may take precedent, or a trial that goes off the rails and takes 2 weeks when it should have taken a day and a half, and now the judge's schedule is all thrown out of whack. So I think that the best thing is to try to have a regular and open dialogue with your law firm about where are we in my case and what's next and how can I help, and what are the things we can do to speed it up. So there are some things. If the defense attorney or the other attorney is stalling, motions can be brought, or requests for court conferences to put a scheduling order in place can be done. But the last thing you really want your attorney to do is to ask the judge to hurry up, because that's the surest way to A, slow it down, and B, get the outcome you don't want. Because the rule is, if you ask a judge when are they going to make a decision or why haven't they made a decision, you're not going to like the answer. So I guess I would say, understand what's in your attorney's control and what's not in your attorney's control, and just keep a dialogue about it. And I think most attorneys want their clients to be satisfied and understand realistic timeframes and move things along where they can. So, but I think it's all about, I know people are sometimes afraid to call their lawyer because it's going to show on their bill, but there'll be someone else at the firm, a legal assistant or a paralegal who can answer questions about timing, or in my office, the non-legal staff who are who are certified divorce specialists can listen to the client and say, all right, what are your concerns? Let me take them to the legal team and get back to you with an answer about what you can expect or what could be done to move this along faster.
I think there's misconception with a lot of attorneys, and there's this idea that divorce lawyers want to drag it out and they're just running up billing hours. And maybe there are some that do that, but
unfortunately,
why it's so important to find the right divorce attorney.
Yeah, and I think that it really does all come back to getting an understanding about where you want to go and why, right? So do you want to try to divert this to a mediation and avoid the trial because you don't like stress and uncertainty and expense? And work with your attorney on what are the best strategies and methodologies for getting you where you want to go that are within your tolerance for timeframes, budget constraints, etc. So some of the non-litigious things are going to get you to a divorce finish line. a lot sooner and a lot less cost um, than going the courtroom route. And for some people, that's great. Going the non-courtroom route, where you use a mediator or an arbitrator, is palatable and comfortable. And for others, that feels uncertain or foreign, or that they might be asked to compromise more than they're willing to. There's a misconception that if you're mediating, you're sort of giving in. The other thing I would caution people about is the well-meaning group of friends and family who are there in your camp, who always have a story about somebody who got divorced in 2 weeks or 2 months or something. And those things happen, but they usually happen when people say, we've talked about everything. We just needed an attorney to draft up an agreement and then do the uncontested divorce paperwork for us. So those people can be realistic when they're telling you that a divorce took a very short period of time. But if you're on the courtroom track and your ex is filing motion after motion or stalling and stalling and stalling, then your divorce isn't the divorce of the party who got divorced in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever. Your divorce is your divorce. And so try not to assume that because John or Susie had a different divorce experience that yours should be exactly the same.
Well, Deborah, these are the conversations that people really can benefit from learning about before they start their divorce, or once they're in the beginning stages. So thank you so much. Let people know where they can find you and your firm.
Great. Yeah. So we are located in Saratoga Springs, New York, and Elizabethtown, New York. It's Whitson Law at whitsonlawfirm.com. We also have a sister company called mediatedonlinesolutions.com, which does family law related mediation in and outside of New York State. We can mediate anywhere. And on either of those websites, people can download a free ebook version of my book, Divorce Like a Pro, A Better Way to Break Up, where I address a lot of these questions in a very easy to read short book. And you can buy it on Amazon if you really like hardcover or you really want to have that book in your hand, but the e-version is available for free download on either of my websites. So if you have more questions that I didn't get a chance to address today, download that book, and I'm sure they're going to find answers to the most common questions about the process of divorcing and what to expect and what your options are. And it goes through a lot of the things we talked about today. Thank you for letting me say that.
Of course, we'll leave notes to that in the YouTube and the podcast. Deborah, thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thanks, Rob. It's always great to be on your program. I know you do a great service for a lot of people out there who are chomping at the bit for this information, and you always provide good, solid, sound answers and guidance to them. So I know you do a great service for a lot of viewers, and I appreciate that you do that.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. It seems like we all want to pay it forward. If you've been through divorce, you know what it's like. We want to help people that are starting that process.
Yeah, and speaking of which, there's a lot of other free resources on those websites as well. Short informational videos, things about what is mediation, how can you use mediation, how can you get the other party to say yes to mediation, everything you need to know about grandparents' rights, custody, family support, etc. There's lots of free resources. We want people to come in. Well, whether they come into us to our firm or not, we want people to have the information they need to intelligently make a choice about how they approach their situation, who, if anyone, as a legal professional, they engage to be in their camp with them. So lots of great stuff out there for free on both of my websites, and I hope people will take advantage of that.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
All right. Thanks, Rob. You have a great day and a great 2024.
You too.